Hi there everybody, welcome to Mirror World News. Today we're going to be talking about how to sell your book, or marketing. Stay tuned. Hi there everybody, I'm here with Justine Dowsett, producer, publisher, head honcho, CEO, and big boss of Mirror World Publishing. Now, today we're going to be talking a little bit, as I said before, about selling your books, marketing your books, that kind of thing. So, does this conversation have to mostly do with if you get a publisher or an agent, or if you're doing it by self-publishing? Like, what do you mean by selling? Like, is
I mean all of the above. It's not about selling to a publisher or agent. This is once you already have a book in your hands. So it's been produced, whether you self-published it, whether you traditionally published it, however you got it, you have your book now, and you want to sell it to readers.
Okay, but with traditional publishing, does not the publisher then handle all of that? Like, do you have to do any of it?
Maybe like 50 years ago, but no. Nowadays, if you want your book to be successful, you need to be just as active as your publisher is to try to get that book out there to make a name for yourself. Especially if you're a first-time author, or if you're self-published or hybrid published, definitely need to get out there because you're going to be the only one doing it.
Yeah. So no matter what the option is, you always have to have your boots on the ground. You always have to sell your own works all the time.
And that's something that writers don't generally come naturally to. So it's something you're going to have to learn how to do.
Some people, whenever they go into writing, is because they don't want to deal with people. They just want to they just want to be behind their keyboard and type.
Right.
But in so doing with selling, where and how would they do that? Like, how do they reach the readers to sell their books? Where do they do that?
Right. So to start, you want to figure out what your niche is. That could just be simply your genre. But it's also what your book's subject matter is, so what your book is about. You can write a romance, and that's one thing, but is it a romance that's set in a period piece, like a Regency romance?
Oh, okay.
Or is it a romance maybe about, like set on the high seas, I don't know, pirates?
You don't want to sell occult horror to a Harlequin fan.
Right, exactly. So you have to determine what your book is about, and then research that particular niche, find out where those books sell, where the readers of those particular books go to buy their books. Are there forums? Are there Facebook groups? Are there places where they meet? Do they generally read them in book clubs, like more literary books generally are for book clubs? Do they just go to bookstores? All sorts of places that you could go. If you're writing a nonfiction book, you can also look at where the subject matter is. So if you're writing a book about boats, maybe there are stores nearby, or stores that you know of that sell boating supplies.
Or like a local marina or something.
Or a marina, or a gift shop. Maybe that has the kind of thing you're looking for. So
if you're doing like a local history book, you could always check out the local museum or the local library.
Exactly.
Or local gift shops even,
Yeah. Okay. So you want to look at basically how many sales avenues do I have, and try to cover as many of them as you can. So sales avenues, basically online is a good place to start.
And also the cheapest place to start too.
Yeah. Third-party sellers, those can be online or in stores. By that I mean like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those places where they allow
print on demands, that kind of thing. Places where you sell it through them, they take a cut, but they deliver it kind of thing. So you don't have to do any delivery.
Otherwise call it a distributor.
Yep.
Yeah, so any method of distributing. Bookstores, whether again in person or online. Gift shops, we already mentioned. Any events that are going on. If there's a theater production that happens to be like a Regency style play, and you want to maybe collaborate with the event organizer, see if you can sell books at the door, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. As many different avenues as you can find as possible.
Yeah, as many different places as they can be and see your book, that's the better they have. Because the more someone sees your book, the more automatic authority that you have, and the more likely they are to purchase your book. And the more they hear about it, the more they're going to likely to buy.
We're not even getting into advertising here. That's a video all on its own.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is just where you can sell.
This is just where you have to physically have your book.
Available,
or e-physically.
Digitally have your book.
I like e-physically. I like that better. All right, so how do I make the books available to those places? Like, do I just walk up with a box of books and be like, "Can you do that book for me?"
So first of all, make sure you have books. So order a print run, or if you're-
E-published or actual.
Or right, if you're doing ebooks, that's also
Digital.
fine. But you want to make sure that book exists and you're
Yes.
able to sell it.
Have it first.
Yes. Then approach any sellers that you're going to be selling through. So whether that's the Amazon, which is really easy, you just sign up for their service, or whether it's as difficult as going to a bookstore, talking to the owner, and saying, "Can I sell my books here?" They're going to do one of two things. They're either three things. They could say no, which is fine.
That's a possibility.
They could offer to order that book for you, and from your wholesaler or your distributor, and put it on their shelves, and you don't have to worry about it. Or they could offer you a consignment option. Now, consignment is where you bring the books in, you're responsible for stocking that shelf, but if the book sells, they take a little cut and they give you the rest. And you'll work out a percentage and how often you come in and check on the books and that sort of thing. But that's a consignment deal.
Yeah. And always remember that whenever you go to a physical brick and mortar location, their whole purpose is to sell stuff. So if you have a book that is an awesome book with a great looking cover, and you walk in and really talk to them like a person, not be afraid of them, just talk to them, the likelihood of you being able to get that sale is pretty high.
Right, and you can also come in with an info sheet. You can make up, here's your book, here's your cover, here's your blurb, here's a little bit about you, here's a little bit about the pricing and that sort of thing, and maybe what you want your consignment deal to be if you have all that worked out.
Yep.
Come in with that info sheet, and then you can just drop it off and leave it for the owner, if he's not available or she's not available.
Absolutely.
Here's my contact info.
Yeah, there's always the mentality of proof is in the pudding. So if you already have it at another store,
Sure.
you could give them the numbers. Like, this is how this store sells it. This is how well it's doing in this area of town. How would you like to sell it too? Now, albeit I wouldn't sell to bookstores next door to each other, just because.
Well, it depends if they're competing or not.
True, they might be friends. Who knows? But just it comes into research.
Yeah,
Got to research.
True, research. Yeah. Basically just make your books available as many places as possible. Just keep trying different avenues to get them on the shelves.
Okay, so what are some other ways that say you could be more active in selling the book? Like, you've already gone and you've talked
Right.
to the people at the stores, and they may say yes, they may say no. You've already gone to, like, you've already set up your e-store, for example.
Right. So
How do you do it?
Sometimes just having the book on a shelf or available in an e-store isn't enough. And without advertising, which is, again, another video, there are active ways that you can sell. Those are generally at events. So you can go to that store that you have your book on the shelf, and you say, can I do a book signing here? Can I do a book launch event here? And you set up that event and try to advertise for that and get people to come out on that day to buy that book. You can do readings. You can go to already established events where other authors are doing readings, try to do it as a team effort. So a bunch of you do readings. Kind of like a concert where you're like the opening act,
Yep.
maybe a bigger name. You can attend book fairs as a vendor, or a craft show, or an artisan show, or conferences. There's just so many different types.
Conventions.
There's so many
Wherever
different
you
types
gotta
of events. But you research these places and find out how much they charge for you to be there. Sometimes it's not worth it. Depending if you have one book and you're not going to sell that many copies and they're charging like $300 a table, don't do it.
There are more local things that you
Yes.
can do, depending on your town or city or wherever you live, that you could get to, where you can get a table at like a local craft show, sometimes even for
Sometimes
free.
for free. It ranges anywhere from
So-
free to, I would never pay more than $300 as a store. Like for me, as a small publisher, I wouldn't pay more than that to go to
As
one
an
day.
independent person that only has one book or maybe two books, if you're
Yeah.
thinking about getting a table for like $200-300, I would just get a really big coat with some sleeve pockets in it and be like, want to buy my books? No, like,
Figure out what
it's
your
too expensive.
Figure out what your budget is and how much you expect to make off that event.
Yeah.
Now, you can always try it out. You go to that event, say it's $50 for the table, and you maybe sold 2 copies. Next year, don't do that same event if you don't
Yep.
think it was worthwhile. Now, if you pay $50, you go there and you sell a bunch of copies. Next year, you're going to want to make sure you're at that event.
Yeah.
So just that sort of thing. It's trial and error, learning where your book sells.
And speaking of events as well, I've heard a couple pieces of advice. One, for traditionally published people. If your publisher tells you that they have a place for you to go and they've already set it all up and everything, go.
Right.
Don't not go. Because there are people that are like, oh, well, no, the publisher will go. I'll just let them sell it. No, go. Because
Yeah.
if they've already said it
Oh,
and
they'd love
booked
to
it,
have you there too.
go.
Because then you can sign copies, and signing copies adds that extra bit of value, which
Yes.
is more likely to make a sale. Also, people going to these events don't have to pay for shipping if they're thinking about online. So there's different ways to say you're getting a value by me being here.
Absolutely. And there's also another piece of advice I've heard, that if you are in a bookstore, like if any bookstore, whether you're self-published and you manage to sell it to a bookstore on the corner or a gift shop, or whether you're a major publisher Anytime you're in a town that is not your own town, if you're visiting and you're near a bookstore, go in, ask for the manager, tell them who you are, and say that you are willing to do a few book signings, because a lot of places have little stickers that say signed copy. And they usually take those signed copies, because they're a little bit more expensive, and they'll put those on like an end cap. Or they'll put them next to the cash register. They just see it more because it's autographed. They can sell it for more, so they want to sell it. And by them wanting to sell it, you get more views by people looking at it.
Exactly.
And it's especially important if it's not in your hometown, because that opens up another market.
Right. And if you ever get the opportunity through your publisher or even yourself, if you get the gumption to do it, set up a book tour. This takes a bit more work, a bit more legwork, but you're going to contact a bunch of bookstores in your area or however far you're willing to travel in advance and set up dates, and you're going to come up with your advertising for it, your posters, you get your bookmarks, you get your books, and you travel around to these places and do a bunch of signings. And they're small events, so you might not get a lot of sales in each one, but overall you're spreading your name.
Yep.
You're known now to these bookstores. You're also you're just getting it out there.
The bigger footprint you have, the more books you will sell. It's just the way it is. The more books that people see of you, the more you will sell.
And it's about getting momentum, because once you've sold those 50 copies, those people were going to tell their friends if they liked it, and it goes from there.
And then when you get your second book, and when you get your third book, and when you get your fourth book, it'll snowball. So it's getting the ball rolling is the hardest part, especially if you're not the kind of person that likes people. It's hard. It's very hard.
Right.
But you got to try to get over that hurdle and even just get your books in one store.
Yeah, just get out of your comfort zone and just try to get that book seen. It's worth it for your book. You've worked this much on it. You need to get it out there.
Take the last step to do it. I mean, you took all these other steps that were super hard to get there.
True.
One more.
All right.
Well, there's technically two. There's advertising, but that's a whole nother video.
Talk about that.
That's a whole other video.
If you are interested in learning more about blog tours specifically, we have a beautiful guest post by Nate Friedman, one of our authors, on the Mirror World blog. So I would definitely go and check that out. Just type in blog tour.
He did a book tour?
He did a book tour, and it actually was phenomenal for him. He got a ton of good experience from it. He wrote all about it, so he told you how to do it. But it has now propelled him to have an agent that picked him up.
Nice.
So,
very cool.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much, Justine, for telling us more about marketing and how we could sell our books. And everybody, just try it. Do it. Just you take the last step. Sell a book. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. You have yourself a wonderful day, and you as well.